Hey Asim.
Hi.
Hey Asim. Hi. So I'm Aisha from the Orange
Nice to meet
Wall.
you.
Yeah, nice to meet you, as we say now.
Yeah.
Let's start with some context. I see that you went to LSE, London School of Economics, did your BSc in economics, and
Yes, I did.
then joined City in the IBD of all
Yes.
places.
Yes.
So how did the switch happen, and what happened?
Okay. So yes, all of that is correct. I think, and I don't want to, I'm too old. I don't want to give my age away. But when I was of course leaving school and thinking about universities and stuff, arts and doing creative stuff and creative industries were not something
Hmm.
you did. You not certainly didn't leave Pakistan to go and pursue a career in arts and learn filmmaking.
Yeah,
Um,
parents
so
weren't going to pay for that. Yeah.
Yeah. So I was good at economics. I had done it at A levels and kind of gotten admission at LSE. Did economics. I liked it.
Hmm.
And from then on, I got a job. And then at 21, when you have an investment banking job and things are good, then you're like, okay, maybe I can do away with all my creative, soul satisfying stuff that I want to do. But I think it kind of nagged its head every few years. And I think I did investment banking for 10 years. I joined Solomon Smith Barney, then that became Citigroup and all of that stuff. And I was in Canary Wharf. Yeah, I after a while I was like, I need to go and do something else. So I kind of quit. Um, kind of convinced my family I wanted to do
I don't know how
filmmaking.
you did that, but well done.
But I think my mom thought I was gonna do one film. So she's like, okay, do one film and then come back to banking, and that never happened. Um, so that's how I left, and then I went to SOAS, and then I studied film theory there. And then I started doing a bunch of short films in the UK. But again, the UK industry is quite well developed. It's quite competitive, and it was hard getting a foot through the door. And Pakistan was at that time coming up. The TV channels had expanded.
Yeah.
There was more films being made. Multiplex cinemas had come on. So I think there was more opportunity. And Pakistan was always home. So I kept going back and kind of started. Then Cake happened, then Churails happened, and so on and so forth.
No, we are happy all of those things happened, and we have all of this amazing content from you. And you're one of the few filmmakers or creators, I'll just say, because you're obviously doing a lot of different stuff.
Yeah,
Who has captured the interest of the audiences as well as the festivals. Sometimes we kind of, categorize or bucket people into one or the other.
yeah.
So what's the secret recipe there? What's the secret sauce?
I,
How do you manage to kind of get the pulse of both?
I don't think I don't think there's a secret sauce. I think I am just a middle ground filmmaker, to be very honest. I have grown up on Bollywood, and I have grown to love like Bollywood, and I've grown up to love European art house. So I'm just this love child of two completely different
Yeah.
chains of thought, two different things. So I think what happens is that you end up getting few moments from here and a few moments from there, and khichdi banke, something else happens. So I
Hmm.
think but it's working for me. So I'm like, okay, just I'll do me. And then if it goes to
Yeah.
festivals, it goes to festivals. If it plays at other avenues, that's all good.
And is there any thought before you choose a project, as to um, are you purely like going by instinct, or are you, is there more thought to it rather than just an instinct?
I think there is some thought to it, but I have to be honest. I think I do react to my gut the strongest and to my instinct the strongest, um and I think really at the end of the day, I'm like, if I like this and I would really badly want to make this, then there must be at least a few crazy people who'd love to see it. Okay, and it might not be for everyone, and that's what we did with when Cake happened. Feature films like that were not really getting made. We had the really big blockbusters coming out, and they were the only ones performing. And with Cake, we tried to, kind of figure out that middle ground thing. But I really just wanted to tell a story about a family, you know, and about aging and
Hmm.
parents passing away and growing old and what that means. And I was coming from a very personal space because my father was unwell at that point in time. So I think, and then
Okay.
again, Churails was inspired by everything that you know, the day-to-day existence of a woman in Pakistan and what happens under the thumb of patriarchy. So I think really I'm catering to myself, and I think that's the best way to be a filmmaker is make
Yeah.
stuff for yourself and hope that someone else also wants to see it, because that's the only way I
Yeah.
can think about creating my own authenticity in a project. And even with Count Abdullah, even that's my first project that I'm directing. I've not written it, and Kamil, who's a brilliant writer, has written it. um, but again, and I always well, I didn't always think, everyone around me always thought that I'll never be able to direct anyone else's writing, because I'm very anal sometimes. But they sent me the script, Fudge Park, and I loved it. And I thought, what a great premise. And it's something that
Yeah.
leaves a mark. And I think when you're thinking about, is there thinking behind it? Yes, that is the thinking. The thinking is that, okay, I want to do something for myself, but can this create some kind of a
Hmm.
legacy? Can this be something that people will come back to from years from now and say, okay, that show did something for those times? And I think that is kind the only thinking that there is, that um it should feel like it's a legacy in a certain way and should feel progressive in a certain way.
Absolutely. And, coming to Count Abdullah, I mean, the first time I got the synopsis, I went, what? Like,
Yeah, exactly.
I've seen like, I've seen zombie movies and vampire movies and everything else, but you kind of never see, the Desi context of it or that situation in a Desi context. And, so brilliantly written and so brilliantly directed. I mean, some
Thank
of,
you.
some of the things, so, when I started watching it initially, I was very skeptical. I said, okay, it's a leap of faith for myself, but
Yeah.
I was hooked. Like I wanted to know what will happen with Abdullah, but more so even like, where's the mother's life going? Or, for example, what even happens with Shafi? Like, I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
all the characters, it's a small world, but they kind of, you get so engrossed, you get so involved.
Yes.
So, well done on that. So on that, what was you said that it was something that was out of the box, and you felt like it would create kind of a legacy. Is there Are we going to see you doing more of these kind of out of the box kind of shows? Maybe something for the Pakistani audience as well, um, in this
Yeah.
space.
um but depends what you mean by this space. Do you mean in comedy space, or do you mean in
Yes, like comedy, like dark comedy, or
okay.
in that space. Because honestly, I don't think there's enough comedy being done, and God knows we need it. So
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'll say never, because I like experimenting. I like doing different things. I don't want to be a filmmaker or a creator or a director who gets boxed into he only does those kind of films. I have another
Hmm.
show that you might have heard of coming out called Barzakh, which is
Absolutely.
vastly different from Churails or Count Abdullah, just in terms of its visual, in terms of its approach. So I like being uh, unexpected and changing genres and doing different kinds of things. So I think I was initially apprehensive about doing comedy, because comedy is it's a very tricky genre, in the sense that
Hmm.
you have to lay the groundwork for your jokes, and you have to deliver the gag right on time to get the right laugh and all of that stuff. So I think I don't think I'm personally a comedy writer, so I don't know if I'll do an outright comedy as a writer.
Hmm.
But yes, I'm open to directing more comedies. I'm open to directing, in fact, all genres. I want to now do the things that I've not done. I've not done sci-fi or dystopian yet. I've not done a romantic comedy yet, like a pure
Yeah.
romantic. So I want to do different things. And the thing is, with these genres, with things like romantic comedies, with comedies, um, I find it easier to do it outside Pakistan.
Hmm.
Just because I think the South Asian comedy is slightly different. It tends to be a little more slapstick. It tends to be a little more,
Yeah.
you know, uh, I don't know what the right word is, crude maybe, but it's so if you see the
In your
comedy films
face,
in Hollywood,
basically. It's
yeah,
not, yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
That I can't possibly do because I think that just doesn't like I doesn't come naturally to me. So I think in Pakistan, whenever I do my stuff, I think it'll probably be have a little more serious undertones, like my
Hmm.
previous work. But yeah, open to all stuff.
Absolutely. I think there is an audience for it though, because I see a lot of people in Pakistan, back in Pakistan, watching a lot of different stuff on Netflix, and I think Netflix or Prime or all of these streaming platforms. And I feel like Indian content creators have kind of started tapping into that market. But no, definitely looking forward to more stuff from you. Um, in terms of like you speak about Churails is obviously a very different world to this one. Barzakh, which looks amazing by the way,
Thank
but
you.
again looks like a very different like a universe which is entirely different from this one or from Count Abdullah. As a director, how do you what are your references for these worlds? Number one, and number two, how do you create those while being authentic to them as well? And while your own reality is very different from all of these different worlds that you immerse yourself in, and you obviously do a really good job because it's very believable, it feels very authentic. So how do you approach that process?
That's a very good layered question. So I think the relatability comes from the authenticity of the characters, and I think every character that I create as a writer now I'm talking, um, um, they have a lot of me in it. They have a different version of me in it, and I think that I always say like 20 people live inside me. So I kind of channel each person for some character or something.
Yeah.
So I the authenticity really just does come from realistic um, humans, realistic people who have flaws, who are not cookie cutter, who are not stereotypical, who are odd and weird and just joyous in all their humanity, like we all are. So I think that authenticity comes from just tapping into my own self a little bit, and then of course it's backed up by research. If I'm doing a spy or a detective, then I need to know how, I need to get into a detective's mind. But
Yeah.
the emotion of it all starts internally. It all starts from, okay, can I channel a flaw of mine into this character and give this character a flaw?
Hmm.
He can't be faithful. She can't, I don't know, do something or the other. So I think finding those core truths, I think that is the most important thing for me. Um, but there were two parts to this question. Your first part was something else. It was not about characters. Yeah. So
It was
world. I think world building is more research. So the characters I've spoken of. So for example, Barzakh has this Barzakh is not set in Pakistan. It's shot in Pakistan. It's in Hunza,
Hmm.
but it's not depicted as Pakistan. It's depicted as like this fictitious land. So
Okay.
there were rules and there's a whole lot of world building that kind of goes in. It's partially supernatural, partially realistic. Finding what those rules are, we have this is common knowledge now, so I'm not giving some big
Hmm.
secret away. There are ghosts in Barzakh, and so we
Yeah.
had full rules around how the ghosts come and go, whether they're visible, they're not visible. So I think that is really exciting about slightly of doing like a bigger scale project. Even in Count Abdullah, Kamil had all the vampire tropes that he took and he kind of turned them around to make them more from a Muslim perspective or Islamic perspective and how those
Yeah.
tropes work.
Brilliantly
Like,
done by the way. Yeah.
yeah. So I think the world building is around it, but I think it's for every character, no matter how different that world is, it's finding
Hmm.
the core humanity and the core truth of them.
Oh, great. Thank you. And you've been part of the industry for over a decade now. So if you could just share maybe like a highlight and a low point in this last decade or so.
Ah, I think all my releases today is a highlight because Count of the Light is releasing.
Yeah.
And you know, my cake premiere was a highlight. I think every moment that I've actually been able to pass something on and detached my baby and hand it to the audience and say, this is now yours and no longer mine. I think that's been a highlight because it's that's what we, when we're telling stories, I think we are looking for some kind of a way for being one with others and having some kind
Yeah.
of a shared cathartic experience. Like, it's almost like a purging. That's what good
Yeah.
storytelling does. You connect, you also disconnect. And when you're finished with it, hopefully it's done a good enough job that, in very, very minute, marginal way, you are slightly different from when you started watching the show. So I think that
Yeah.
for me, kind of really the highlight is sharing with the audiences. Low points, I think look, we all go through struggles. This is not an easy industry by any means. I think, for many years, we say decade, but really people only know me from and you're right in saying decade, but
Okay.
like people only know
Yeah.
me from 2018 onwards when Cake came out, right? So the first
Yeah.
4 or 5 years were kind of spent just knocking on doors and being turned away and writing stuff that was perhaps in reality not that good, but because you develop as you age and
Yeah.
you learn and you incorporate. But getting those rejections, you need to have a really, really thick skin, and you really need to be really committed to this profession. And I think for me, in hindsight, it was good that I did banking because it allowed me to know what my priorities were. So when I had done banking and I had been in a what we consider a well-paid job and still been
Hmm.
unsatisfied, I kind of knew that my satisfaction was never going to come from money, and that it was never going to be enough for me to be earning lots of money. I would always be looking for my next fix, so to speak. So my
Yeah.
fix only came from telling stories. So I think if you know that, if you believe in your
Hmm.
heart that you're destined to do this, then I think it's okay to have those struggles, but you have to know that the low points are, and they don't end.
Yeah.
After every project, it's like, oh, what is next? Do I have anything lined up? Do I not have anything lined up? Am I gonna get another job? Because it's like, it's very unpredictable, but I
Perfect. So
think
do you
that's
have
part of
anything lined up for
it.
us after Barzakh then?
After Barzakh, no, I don't have anything lined up in the sense that I'm entertaining a few things. I'm thinking about writing a few things, but there is nothing like locked and sealed that I'm like, okay, this is going to be the next one.
Perfect. No pressure for the next one. But no, thank you so much for your time. It was truly,
Thank you,
really
man.
lovely to speak to you.
Lovely speaking to you too. Take care, Aisha.
Take care. Bye. All the
Bye.
best.